let me know if you can see me on the channel on this live stream, and you're familiar with my walkthrough on location live stream, so you know what to do out there. Anyway, it's great to see everyone again. And today's topic, of course, is Atmos. I have publicized it, so I'm sure you're looking forward to it. Well, I know you're looking forward to it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. We have our friends here, but before I introduce you to our friends, I just want to say thank you very much to the owners of United Records Singapore, where I am, and it's Eric, Wong, and Careen. Tham, I'll introduce you to them in a minute if Careen is around and she wants to join us. If not, it's okay. Okay. So immersive sound has been a frequent topic on music and chat. And as I prepare to release my 5th album, I thought I would jump in and check it out and create some surround mixes for my tracks. And we're fortunate that friends of ours and our dear friend Geoffrey Low, I can see him in the background. Geoffrey's been on an episode of Music and Chat before talking about surround sound, so you're familiar with Geoffrey. But Geoffrey has a couple of friends. As I said, they just installed an Atmos system, and through Geoffrey, they have welcomed me to their studio to check out my mixes. Let's meet Eric Wong to begin with. Hey,
Hi guys.
Eric.
Hi.
So Eric is the creative director of United Records in Singapore. They do audio post, they do music videos, and they also create their own content.
That's right.
That's cool. Hi to Geoffrey.
Hi.
So, all right, I got a few questions to ask Eric first so that we can know more about his recording studio or his setup as a whole. So let's have this aimed at Eric.
Hello. Sure.
So first question is, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this industry, Eric.
Right. So I grew up, playing in bands and orchestras, right? So eventually, when we started this place, we wanted a small little project studio, just to mess around with our own music, right? But of course, life is strange. It has a strange way of bringing things to you. So we started doing audio post production. From audio post production, we moved into creating our own films, right? At the same time, we were a record label, so we signed some local artists. We started doing music for them, albums for them, and then we realized, hey, we needed some visuals to kind of like sell them, right? So we picked up filming, right? So we started doing music videos, and then moved on into creating other type of content.
Oh, what kind of original content have you been involved in, and what is your favorite topic, if you have a favorite topic?
Right. So I like telling stories, right? Film is just another medium for me to share storytelling, another platform for storytelling other than music. And I love combining both mediums together to have a very powerful way that we can tell stories. So I like to explore topics on social causes, things like that. Yeah. So my short films tend to be on, primary school bullying, tend to be on special needs, things like that. Yeah.
There you go. You can look up United Records. This is a Singapore company, and check out Eric's series of short films he's worked on. So Eric, your working experience with Atmos, because that's why we're here.
I must be honest, right? This is a new studio, so it's virtually nil. I'm here to learn.
But it's not virtual.
I'm here to learn because we have a new movie coming up. So we want to start mixing that movie in Atmos as well, right? It's my first feature called Hi Noel. Hopefully it's coming out in Christmas. So that's what we want to do. And in the meantime, I'm practicing some Atmos mixes on some of my old stuff. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So where did you pick up the know-how? Is it through our good friend here, Geoffrey?
Yes, I think so.
Yes, he's the
And-
gatekeeper.
No, and the great internet, and everybody is sharing, and also on the Dolby website, there's lots of information on how you would mix Atmos, get started, as well as the little intricacies that's involved in mixing Atmos as well. So yeah, much information around. No gatekeeper, mate.
Well, we pointed at Geoffrey. Geoffrey, what's one misconception people have about Atmos? Because we talked a little bit about, the assumptions that certain people like. I'm going to include Eric in this. Eric and I have about Atmos.
Yep.
As beginners in Atmos, what do some people think Atmos is about, as in mixing in Atmos and the final result of a mix in Atmos and at its rendering end? What do some people think it's going to do, and some of the fallacies maybe?
Sure, no fallacies. I would say, misconception. The ones that I come about was be something along the lines of the confusion between the beds and the monitoring. So to begin with, many people think that Atmos, you're mixing in some 3D format like 714, 916. They think, I just need to deliver a mix in 714, or I just print it in 916. That's an Atmos mix. That's an immersive mix, no doubt, but it's not a Dolby Atmos mix. What we did in Dolby Atmos was that we created this format and we used 7.1 up to 7.1.2 as a bed, and the rest are objects, to actually allow a creative to mix channel base as well as objects to actually position sound in any 3D space, and actually have Dolby technology render it to the speaker position or render it to the playback device, so that the 3D can be experienced to the creator's intent. So what happened is that we developed a format that is not bonded by a particular channel count, like 714 or 916. It is a Dolby Atmos format that could be playback even from the most basic of a stereo speaker all the way to like 5.1 or even 714 or 916. So it's a very versatile format in Dolby Atmos format, right? And it is not just a channel-based format. What people has been very confused with was that, Atmos Studio is a 7.1.4 studio. Yes, because to mix in 3D, we have to hear it in 3D. So therefore, we built a Studio 714. We help calibrate it, just like Eric's studio here. It's a nice, beautiful 714 studio, and we can hear 3D from here because all the speakers are forming a 3D space for us to monitor while we create a 3D immersive Atmos mix.
Thanks, Geoffrey.
No
well,
problem.
since he mentioned Eric's beautiful studio, I'm going to do a twirl around. Can I do a
Yes,
twirl around?
Sure, of course.
Okay.
Go for it.
So here's the back. So I'll twirl from the right back, right rear. Here's the ceiling. Oh, there we are.
And here I am.
here's Eric. Behind him is a speaker. Here's the ceiling again. All right. Here's this beautiful white screen which I've dreamt about for decades. Someone will sponsor me one, I hope. I'm trying. And here is the work area, speakers as well. So the right and left and center. Center, of course, is there, right, left. Then the ceiling. And then this one to my left.
Left side.
And then the ceiling again. So you get the picture, right, everybody? Do we have a subwoofer?
Yes, behind. Yeah. So you
Oh, there you go, subwoofer.
can
Eric.
Yes.
We've admired your Dolby Atmos new setup. And we should know how you decided to make the plunge. Here's Eric.
Well, I think that technology is advancing every day, right? I mean, it's beneficial for us to understand technology and to utilize technology. And what more, this system, the Dolby Atmos system, has been around for a while, but I think in the recent 3 to 4 years, it has the adoption rate has greatly increased. Greatly increased. So all your new TVs, all your new sound bars, even your new cars, they all have Atmos. So why not, take the plunge, right, and move into Atmos? I mean, since we were moving our studio, we decided might as well just set it up.
There you go.
Yeah.
I do have a question for Geoffrey.
Yeah.
So, everyone knows that Dolby Atmos started as a technology for movies,
Yes.
to watch movies in a movie theater, I mean. But only, now I don't know the dates or how long it has been, but then it crept into the music and home entertainment centers. So that's why we are able to acquire ourselves a 7.1.2 system for the home use. So we talked a little about Apple Music and how their entire catalog. Now, was it 2 or 3 years ago that they decided to offer an Atmos version as well? How, as producers and of Atmos music, how should we approach making sure we get what is required by Apple? Because we had an extended discussion about it just now. Could you just give us a quick summary, please?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the question before the question is 2012. I think that's one earlier we released Dolby Atmos, and I think earlier films came out. I think on 2012 itself or 2013, around those time, that was kind of the first Atmos films. So the format has been around for like 10 years. As for the delivery formats, there are several delivery requirements if you want to get your songs produced and uploaded to the platform. We have a basic delivery spec on our website. I think just Google for Dolby delivery specs. I think we have that. If not, please let me know. I can send you a basic guide and stuff like this. One of the challenges with Atmos was that when compared to stereo, for the music industries, it's been a long time where people were just mixing in stereo and then like limiting it and then making it really loud. But in Atmos mixers, we actually have a loudness requirement of -18 LUFS, and that is to
That's
allow.
good to know.
Yeah, that's great to know. And this has caused a bit of like as a beginner to Atmos, this is the first thing that people have to start learning, adapting to, because they're like many of the people I've worked with, they were like, oh, strange, Geoffrey, my mix is so low in volume. Is that gonna be okay? Because I'm hearing the stereo so loud. So as you would, as your viewers would know, music mixes today are mixed as high as maybe -10 or -12, average about -14. But with Atmos mixers, we actually go right down to -18, and simply this is to allow rendering, right? So that if we're gonna fold a 3D mix and try to recreate on just stereo speakers, we need kind of a bit of a headroom. So if everything was like right in a minute, like if you had all like many objects right hitting the top, then there's kind of no space to kind of fold this down. That's kind of a very simplified way of explaining it, but it's kind of giving it more headroom to fold it down. And not to worry, because there's a feature on the Apple platform that will kind of levelize it so that the difference is not going to be like huge when you switch between a stereo song and an Atmos song. Also, as we venture into Atmos space, we experience many people will go very creative and like, oh, I want this thing here, I want this thing there, I want this thing here, I want this thing there. Yes, that's great. The Dolby Atmos format certainly allows that, but with the platform these days, as we are venturing into it, we are trying to find a good balance where we can hear the spatialness, the immersive effect, but also not losing the true so-called essence of the songs, because sometimes we get too carried away and suddenly the Atmos mix become a full-on experimental mix that has no relevance to the stereo mix, and they're going like, am I listening to the same song or am I not listening to the same song? So this is something that to be kind of mindful, like the most basic thing was the levels thing, and we also have a true peak of -1. So you can't cross -1, and you can't be at -17.5 loudness. You will get rejected from Apple. There are a few other technicalities which is too long to explain. Have a look at the list, and I would say like the level as well as the perception, and not to go too crazy yet, although you could, and I think eventually we will go crazy, but as I said, it has to have some relevance to the stereo mix, not too abstract. And the last bit I'd like to share that is that as much as I can say this today, Atmos is really a new format introduced to the audio world, and it's still changing. So what I had worked with Apple to help deliver the mixers a couple of years ago in 2021, some of that has actually changed too. So and more and more requirements are coming in the day as we actually learn how to evolve with this format. So please be patient with us, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us anytime. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Geoffrey.
No
So
problem.
I have some more questions.
Sure.
Let me quickly read my notes. So for those of you who just need a little quick update as to what Atmos actually does, it employs a speaker system that utilizes bits. Geoffrey gave us a whole history lesson earlier on about how the bits came about, and he wasn't talking about furniture, but so we have bits in Atmos that are tethered to the speakers, and then we have the objects that are the 3D items that float about the space. So just in case you guys need to know a bit about how it works, and these bits and objects create a surround matrix that's scalable. I think that's a good summary. Okay, good. All right.
Excellent.
That's a really fast way to put it. Yeah. I would have taken 3 sentences to explain that.
Excellent copywriting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Try my best. All right. So question time. Eric or Geoffrey, either one of you, any anecdotes about working with Atmos or discussing Atmos? I think we kind of talked about some of the misconceptions about this, people have about Atmos, but what about working with Atmos? Have you had clients you've worked with and they expected certain things and you go, well, that's not gonna happen? Any?
So far, not really. I think like Eric is a great, like to me he's actually, I'm a big fan of his work. Like yeah, he's a great storyteller as I would say it, as he would say as well. So what happened is I met Eric at an event about a couple of years ago, right? And he was saying, hey, I heard about Atmos, and I was like, yeah, here's Atmos and stuff, and like if you ever want to work on it, let me know. So I think one thing
Led to another.
yeah, this one thing led to another, and one day he came and said, I'm going to change my studio, right? And I'm going to have it at Atmos, and like that will be my dream and stuff. And a lot at this point, right? Everybody will think, oh my God, this is gonna like really spend a lot of money, and it's dream level, it's not attainable like all of a sudden. But Eric really did his homework. We have some advice, recommendations and stuff, and we work with the suppliers and work with this, and he went through 2 years of serious planning, because I know this because he's calling me like in a week.
I'm bugging him every week.
Almost every 3 days, and then he will just like be quiet for a month, and then after that again, oh okay, I figured this out, so let's go to this part, how we do this. And I'm not saying he didn't spend like any money, he did spend some money, but what I'm saying is, if we do careful planning and all this, and look what we have today, is great, it's workable, it met his needs. There's a lot of support from our pro audio partners, the speakers, the interface, even Pro Tools itself. Things kind of converge to this studio and kind of make it happen. And I remember in this coffee session, we'll say, realistically, it's going to take us 3 years, 4 years to do this. And well, it's done in like 2.5. And he's having a great time now, I can see,
Yes.
because we've been sitting around.
Yes.
mucking about with mixers and stuff. But yeah, Eric, your side of the story.
Yeah. I think experiencing Atmos is really a different thing. For those of you who have not yet tried Atmos, yeah, it's really amazing, because you are building an environment, right? And it sounds coming from at you from all directions. I mean, for me, it works especially in film, right? And of course, now we know in music as well. So it's both because I exist in both worlds. I still I do film scoring. I still produce music, and at the same time, I'm still producing films as well. So these two combine together for really fun time. I don't feel like I'm working a single day.
Any particular anecdotes you'd like to share about working with other people on an Atmos project, or something that you picked up through trial and error that informs your methodology? Because
Mm,
we learn as we go along,
Mm,
right? And
yeah.
then we go, oh, that's what I'm going to do from now onwards.
mm.
Anything like that from either of you?
For me, muck about.
Uh-huh.
The one thing that Atmos really changed in the kind of perception of sound for me on the playback system was that reverbs can be 3D.
Mm,
Yeah, and with stereo or even surround, you feel reverb being nailed to a wall, to create and stuff, but it's never really natural if you think about it, because if in a natural space, any reverb or any natural occurrences of reverberation or delays or stuff, it's always happen in all directions.
yeah.
It can't happen in like a fixed space
Mm.
because you can't control it. I mean, if you look at the studio, we have done so much. Eric has done so much like padding and stuff just to kind of control the amount of reflections we're having in this room for its critical listening. So that was what's changed for me, is
Mm,
when I first hear Atmos and I could actually move my reverb in a three-dimensional space. That level of like how Eric has put it, that level of bringing someone to a space, right? It's something that I knew I couldn't go back on.
mm,
So, picking up on that, you're saying earlier on that the ideal Atmos production should be an expansion of the stereo suggestion.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be diplomatic here.
mm,
So, if you are then moving the reverberation or effects such as that
Mm,
back into the back recesses of your 3D space that you now have, and
mm,
not just a two-dimensional plane as stereo affords you, then how is that an expansion on the two-dimensional space when you're used to hearing,
yeah.
that space in front of you and not behind you? How do you justify that move?
So I would answer the question a little bit. I would say, in a more related sense than a direct sense.
Okay.
Um, in this 3D space, right, we only have a pair of ears. Yeah.
Last time I checked.
Yeah, last
The
time you
la-
checked, right? So 11 speakers, we can put 20 speakers in this room. You would only have a pair of ears. So at some point, all acoustical information will be summed, just before it hits the eardrum, which is still a two-channel thing, because that's not more than two-channel input. And based on that, I mean, that's also the theory of binaural.
Mm.
And based on that, we can technically recreate any three-dimensional perception, right, without all these speakers. So it is great that with Dolby Atmos, we can create an audio production format that allows you to position the sound already, and then maybe sometime 20 years in the future, we have some kind of processing that can actually allow you to hear that even without the speakers, just like what binaural is doing today. And it will be so accurate and that people are just gonna exist, like will be so immersed in the virtual world more than anything else. Yeah. So that will kind of be my answer. Like, why limit yourself? I don't like to answer a question with another question, but what we were thinking is, why limit ourselves to the position of speakers when we mix? Because we can only mix because we have this bus and we are able to position speaker here. Why limit to ourselves that? Um, and and mix to the position of speaker, why limit ourselves when we can actually have 3D coordinates and store the information for the sound, and then be able to render it out to any speaker configuration to create that sound effect, as even to as small as a headphone experience.
So as you're talking, my mind conjured up another question about
Sure.
throwing the reverb to the back.
Mm.
So you would do this, very only when you think it's necessary, right? Because not every instrument should have its reverb.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll have all these different,
Mm.
like an experience of a candy shop of
Yeah.
reverbs. Like, oh, what kind of experience is this? So it's on the rare occasion that you would throw a reverb to the backspace, would you say? Because there's no way to throw a reverb for a room space, because after all, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just, assuming now that the room is scalable, so it shouldn't, there's no allowance for a room reverb or reverb that shapes the size of the room. There's no need for it. Would I be right to say that? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what
Yeah.
you're saying. It's
I
just
think-
interesting. Yeah.
I think the size of the reverb, it depends on your concept of the music. Like for example, if you listen to classical music that is mixed in Atmos, right, you actually hear the hall, right? You hear the space. You're like sitting in the audience, and yes, you hear mainly the sounds coming from the front, the spread of the orchestra. You can even hear where the harp is, where the glockenspiel is, and you can hear all that. But more than that, you hear the sound traveling into space behind you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the immersive aspect of it, and the hall, you can feel that the hall is large because it's for the size of an orchestra.
That makes sense. So if you throw a reverb behind you, would that be just the plain reverb without any of the feed of the instrument sounds in it?
Oh.
Just
Yeah.
the plain reverb?
Oh no! I mean, there were many techniques to this. Like exactly what Eric said, right? Like when in the natural space with the orchestra, the sound is traveling. It's the same thing as how the reverbs are traveling.
I asked because I do know that you can't, mixing in stereo, you put a, like say a room suggestion reverb on the master channel, but in if you're mixing in Atmos, that is obliterated. Anything that you put in the master channel does not result in the rendered end result. Am I right to say that? That's what I
No.
read.
Oh no! Okay. So what happened is any elements that you put into the sound field of Atmos will definitely be rendered out at some point. But we are given. I mean, if you took an Atmos mix and play back in stereo, you will hear all the elements.
Okay.
You will not feel as good as an immersive experience as you would in this studio. But obviously, just because there's just two speakers in front of you, our technology will try its best to create a virtualized immersive sound based on the two speaker output. And you won't lose any elements, but what we were talking about was the distinction between the beds and the objects.
Okay.
Where if you position anything on the beds or any audio you put on the beds, it will just translate almost directly, as in if you play back on a stereo speaker, the left will go to the left, the right will go to the right.
Okay.
Whereas if in an object you put in the Dolby Atmos 3D space, our technology will start looking into the mapping and says, in your playback device, do I have a speaker near the position that you have positioned it? And if I have the speaker, I will send it to that speaker. If I didn't have that speaker, I will find the neighboring 3 speaker to kind of, maybe phantom image the sound, or maybe I wouldn't use I would say for better understanding, triangulate the sound so that it the bass, and then we'll have that actually join. Hear the first sparkle and you hear the shh. To immerse your listeners in a very realistic way.
Thanks, Geoffrey. We had a connection problem just a few seconds ago,
Okay.
but I think we're good because I don't see the spinning discs.
Oh.
I think it's Wi-Fi. It's your fault. Okay, I got just a few
It's
more.
buffered, so no problem.
Yay! I just got a few more questions. I know. Wait for 8 months. Um, I think we covered challenges you faced as well. So I'm gonna move on to we have our good friend. Did you meet up with Bob Clearmountain and you and
Yeah, I mean how he would use Apple key stuff and an SSL console to create an Atmos mix. We had the privilege of hearing all his mixes,
good?
his Atmos mixes, which sounded really good. Then again, he's Bob Clay Mountain, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and yeah, and I would say my claim to fame was asking him a question that he really enjoyed answering.
Oh, very good.
Yes, and it was also on the same theme that I talked about. Like I asked him the same question that you kind of asked me, and I said like, how have you been creating spaces with Atmos? Because that was what really impressed me when I first experienced Atmos. And his answer was, well, he used two PCM70s. So in case people, the new generation people in your group, PCM70 is a Lexicon hardware reverb unit. It's stereo based, so he has two units of them. They didn't come cheap even in his day, where he put one reverb in front and one reverb in the back. So he had two units to do that. And yeah, and he created his space this way. And I was asking him how he used delay. He was using Atmos as ping pong delays as well and stuff like this. So yes, it was a great session, and I got my picture. That's what I
Yay.
wanted.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeffrey. So we're talking earlier about how Atmos actually begin by providing, in terms of bits and objects, just objects to start off with, and then realize that people wanting something a little bit more definite in position clarification. So speaking of Bob and speaking of objects, when Bob appeared on one of my music and chat interviews, he said this quote: "Surround mixing was designed for movies where flying sounds around was useful and relevant, not so much for songs." Of course, we know, as Geoffrey said, he's done some brilliant Atmos mixes. Through trial and error, he's only got his signature style, so he knows what he wants to fly about for a song. How about the two of you? What would you pick to fly about?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh. You want to go first, Eric?
Yeah,
Oh.
I think it depends on the song, first of all, right? Depends how experimental the artist is, you know, or how many layers and textures and instruments there are. Of course, typically, I think some of the things that are fun to fly around, you know, are the pingy stuff. You know what I mean? The pingy stuff.
We got a
Okay.
new term for objects, guys.
Yeah.
Pingy stuff.
Pingy stuff, you know, they sound great in a space, right? So that's one of the fun things that we can do. Or certain electric guitar riffs, you know. But if you're talking about melody, I mean, melodies, it's a little bit more challenging to make melodies fly around too much, right? So yeah, so that's what I
There you
would think.
go,
I
from
don't know
Eric.
about what do you think?
Jeffrey.
No, exactly. That I that's a great answer. So I must tell you, don't do it too much. It would sometimes drive the listeners crazy. I would I would challenge you guys to do this little trick which I discovered in Atmos. Like I discovered this by accident, that when you had a stereo pad, like something in the background, like, you know, gives the warmth, or like a maybe an organ or something, and you know how organs used to have rotating speakers and stuff. So so I actually, you know, with this kind of organy pad kind of sound, I call it the pillow of sound. So it's the pads kind of have like, it's a pillow for you to listen to the song, like you're sitting on it. They in stereo mixing, we just put it there and we put it really wide. But in Atmos, for some reason, it was by accident that I end up just moving it left and right. It doesn't actually change any movement. It doesn't actually show any movement. But my God, it just gives, when you hear it, it gives something is moving. You can't put your sense on it, but it kind of it's like modulations, right? It's a kind of modulations that you kind of feel it, and I would say try it. It does add some kind of textures to the mix. It's not obvious, but it's definitely felt.
It keeps your brain
Yeah,
interested.
it kind of keeps the brain
It's like
moving.
vibrato.
Yeah, it's like a
It's
vibrato
like the
thing.
purpose
Yeah.
of a vibrato to keep your brain connected.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So try it. It's like people say, why would you do that? It's not gonna make any difference.
a
Oh man.
Spatial tremolo.
Yeah, it's like a spatial tremolo. Oh, that's the better word for it. Okay, yeah,
We've
spatial tremolo.
invented a few terms here in the
Yeah,
last
spatial
30
tremolo, yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
Pingy stuff,
Pingy
Yeah,
stuff.
pingy
spatial tremolo.
Yeah.
What next?
Yeah, yeah.
We'll have to start our own dictionary of
Yes.
terms.
Yeah, that's
Atmos
great.
term.
Atmos term. And then we have another thing, the LFE, the low frequency effects channel, I guess. It's very useful in games, as we know, because it's all to do with excitement.
Yeah.
But how would you apply that to a song, if
Yeah.
you apply it at all?
We went through this just like before this morning. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want?
Okay, I think because one of the great things about Atmos coming from film is that we all know, the things about film is that you love the explosions. You love your subs, you want the ground to shake and tremble, when Godzilla stomps, you really want to feel it in your body, right? So utilizing that for music is really fun. Most home studios or mixing studios might not have that luxury of having a subwoofer LFE, right? So when we have that in Atmos, I think it brings a whole new dimension to the music that you can mix and enjoy. Yeah.
What would you put through the LFE?
Godzilla stomps.
In a music, in a song, in a song?
Footstep.
Yeah, you never know,
boom.
that could work.
It depends on the song, right?
Yeah, it depends on the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think really, when we listen to some of the stuff, through Apple Music, Dolby Atmos, wow, with that LFE, it really makes a difference.
So it's useful after all. Would you say if you had to mix an entire album, would you build in the LFE for every song or just select songs?
I think if the song is just a ukulele, probably not.
Okay.
It's just exactly what Eric said. It depends on the song. If Godzilla in it,
Yes,
you
you
need it,
need- you need.
definitely. And I would say, I have to give the official Dolby answer, right? To say that is LFE is low frequency effects. Many people have the misconception that it is LFE is there to give bass to speaker. It might do that in a certain monitoring environment which we call bass management, but in the mixing format of the sense is not. It is really what it is, because like you said, as we know, it's developed from movies. The LFE channel was, for the Godzilla. Is really for him, or maybe Ultraman, I don't know. And then and
King Kong?
yeah, King Kong or Jurassic Park or something. So therefore, it is really an effect channel whereby you could, hear rumble and stuff. Many people have questioned. So it is not to replace bass on a speaker in a format. So please do not move your kick drum to the LFE channel. That's very dangerous, because in some fold downs like stereo, the LFE channel is actually dropped. So it's actually quite dangerous. Because in some people, like in the stereo channel, you don't have a low effect LFE driver. Why would you need the sound? It might clutter up headroom. So in some formats, the fold down is actually dropped. So it's not to actually add bass, and this is something I really want to clarify. Many people have this misconception. And many people have asked the same question in the sense that how would this relate to music, right? Yeah, and of course Godzilla might actually play with a symphony someday. So, so you never know. But what has been used extensively, like Eric I have discovered when we were just like combing through Apple Music, was that it's been used a lot to add harmonics to the lower end instruments, like harmonics to kick drum, harmonics to bass sound, and it just kind of fuller ups the sound, and it's great because it translates into the binaural. Binaural renders take the LFE, so you get a fuller bass, and that fullness actually creates more presence, so that even you are in a less off maybe playback system, you can still feel the fullness. So I think that's really advantageous towards music, and especially like I said, it's harmonics or additional adding to it. it's not replacing it. So please don't put the kick drum or bass into LFE because you will lose it and it will be my fault. So I won't say that, but if you listen to a lot of Apple Music today, many people are really using this harmonic, using it in music in terms of adding low-end harmonics to it, and it sounds beautiful.
Thank you. That's a very good answer. I do know some mixer producers actually make an attempt to create another channel with that lower frequencies, you know, I don't know, 30 hertz and below
Yeah.
or whatever kind of idea, just for that. You're talking about like a little saturation at
Yes,
the bottom.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just gives out. It's like the beef, right? It's
Yeah.
like the giving it some beef to it.
Yeah, beef is a good word.
But spatial tremolo is best.
Yeah, spatial tremolo. So
That's too good, man.
I was talking to Geoffrey earlier on about the speaker configuration, and you know, I looked on the Atmos side, so you can give me a summary because the viewers hadn't heard your answer, and they, you know, they suggested speaker configuration from 2.1 to 11.1.8, and you had a great answer. Geoffrey, could you recall that answer, but put it in like 3 sentences?
Uh, speaker, yeah. So again, to mix in 3D, you just need to hear it in 3D, and you technically could mix Atmos from headphones because binaural is hearing in 3D. The accuracy of it, of course, cannot be challenged to a full-on studio like this, and especially after we have spent a couple of days calibrating it, it sounds beautiful. Eric loves the speakers from you know, Eric actually has this pair of stereo speakers for the longest time. But
Almost 10 years. Yeah.
almost 10 years, but he loves this now. He says, oh my god, I'm hearing things that I'm not hearing.
Yeah.
And so even in a 5.1 or a 2.1 system, you can still hear some 3D information because the renderer would try to recreate it. However, in a critical listening environment, in Dolby we recommend 714 as the minimum. 916 is possible, 1118 is possible, but at this moment we have many documentations documenting how you should put a 714 system together. Bear in mind that it has to follow a few standards, like if you look at the ceiling, Eric and I had a long time trying to angle and position the speakers correctly, and Eric had designed this very nice ceiling rig to hold up the height speakers, which I thought was brilliant. My idea to him was just put up some stands. He's like, oh no, can I do this? And I still remember when the studios was not set up, I was here one time just to figure out whether this speaker was the right position, whether the structure is gonna hold them. So there are positions you gotta meet, like it's kind of half ITU positions and half Dolby. We put in some recommendations because our renderer is working based on that, and yeah. But in any configuration, you could mix Atmos from binaural to even stereo to even 5.1, but at critical listening positions for full on, I would recommend 714.
There you go, from the horse's mouth. Not calling you a horse. Just a figure of speech. I was telling you that one of our friends, my friends on Facebook, Peter Monzi, you had a question about mixing in Atmos on Studio One. You just bought the DAW, and of course you don't have the speaker set up like Eric has here. Lucky Eric.
Yeah.
So you were saying, what should I do? And I had mentioned that I actually monitor in binaural on Logic Pro because that's what's provided to the users. Geoffrey, did you find out if Studio One has that same ability?
Right. So, the binaural renderer is actually built into our renderer, and is we are rendering it. Apple has one as well. That's why Apple has it in Logic. Last I've heard from, I'm not updated on this, but last I've heard, I would say it's coming. I've seen it on the, like we mentioned about Studio One in our discussions in our teams and stuff. I can't tell when, but we'll definitely look into it because we want to make Dolby Atmos as accessible to anybody as possible, and yeah, if not, try to get the renderer, and you should be able to. We have a renderer app. You should be able to hear it. I'm just not sure at this point of the call, whether you could work Studio One with our renderer. That's the part that I'm not so sure. Yeah.
I don't know, Peter, if you're there. I don't know because it's now what time in Australia?
Few hours ahead.
Yes, so
3
like
3 p.m.
3:30. If you're still around and you're watching, does Studio One have offer Atmos like Logic Pro has as a built-in service, or do you have to include it as a plugin? So you had to buy the renderer and then install it, and it appears as a plugin. If you're there, let us know. If not, I guess we'll find out somehow one day.
But there's an app. I'm very sure there's an app that will work with any DAW.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I just cannot
Is it
remember
as
the
a
name.
plugin? No.
It's like an app and plugin. It
Oh,
will work
okay.
together. I've
So-
not played with
okay.
it, but yes, there's an app that yeah, just Google it. I'm
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
sure you can find it. Yeah. If you can't find it, just let me know. I will find it for you.
Thanks,
It's an
Geoffrey.
app that will work with any DAW to be able to create an Atmos mix. Yeah.
Cool. That's good to know. So those of you who are wondering, because as you know, this live stream will be archived. Oops, sorry about the paper rustling noise. This live stream will be archived. So if you couldn't watch this live, all this is noted down for posterity. So if you scratch your nose in between, it will also be.
Eternity. Were you scratching on this?
I was.
Oh shit.
You did it
I
on
will.
purpose. So that's all the questions that I have for the sit down session. Now it's time we play with one of my mixes. So I'm just gonna flip this around a bit. So as you guys know, I'm a Logic Pro user. So I brought my laptop with my Logic Pro project, and as you can see, Logic Pro has Atmos as part of the whole setup, so you can simply just pick Dolby Atmos and voila, you are ready to get going. And here you can see 7.1.2, and you see that out of all my tracks, I got like something like 30 tracks for this piece. This is will be the first track, as in first song of my album. It's called Sarah and so on and so forth. It's in 5 parts, but we'll just have a listen to the entire one. So you see that I have bits, and the bits are, as we said earlier on, they are affixed to the speaker. So when you open up the panel window, you'll see that it's spherical in nature. And then the objects appear. Oh, here we go. So I have it under the output section. The way you pick object is to just go over here and voila, 3D object panel. And the panning window is square in nature because it's a grid. We're dealing with space, so it's XYZ coordinates, and it's very obvious it's dealing with coordinates because when you mouse over your arrow cursor on the square panel, it says Cartesian pan, and Cartesian's got to do with coordinates. So all you math people out there, you go, yes, I knew that already. Okay, so Eric has a Pro Tools set up, and I exported my project as an ADM BWF audio definition model. I had to check my notes to make sure I remember what it's called. Audio definition model broadcast wave format. Yay!
100%.
I passed. All right, so Eric took that format and exploded it in an import into his Pro Tools, and this is how it looks like. And Geoffrey already had a few things to say about what not to do.
No, just optimizing the mix.
See, he's very diplomatic. He said, "Oh, just making sure you're safe."
It's your hard work, you know.
Yes, it's my hard work. So we shall have a quick listen. I'm gonna plonk this stand somewhere so you can see it rolling somehow.
Do you want to see this?
Yeah, I'll try and capture it all. I can close this now. Let's see. So you should be able to see the Pro Tools window and the renderer window. Thank you. Let me move that away. So let's have a listen, and you should be able to see the objects in this window. Sorry, the renderer window is
One here.
Thank you.
This part.
Yeah, okay. Only objects as bits don't move around in the 3D space. Only objects move around. So let's play it. So there you go, everyone. That's the first song from the album. You heard at least the Atmos version. It
In
would
stereo.
in stereo. Some kind of stereo because my phone is not in its usual upright position. R. So what was I gonna say? I will be releasing the album in June, I believe. I'll be releasing it as singles over 6 consecutive days, and our dear friend Philip Nelson has, as you guys know, as part of his passion, a comics store. So he has offered to loan it to us to do our releases. So each single will be released in a live stream. So look out for that. And at this juncture, I wanted to thank, let me flip this over, Eric Wong of United Records Singapore. If you need help, he's the man for anything music, post audio, music video, original content creation, or Atmos. He's the guy. And also our good friend Geoffrey Low. Always good to see Geoffrey.
Yes, and please visit Eric's studio. Come and use this studio because it's a really good example of what I would say is a good Atmos studio.
Oh wow! Fancy that. You can put that on your website.
Jeff says so.
Geoffrey Low said,
It's
quote,
good studio, yeah.
there you go. I'll have to. So I would like to visit Eric again. So we have learned a few tips and tricks from Geoffrey as to what to do with my mix and understanding Atmos a bit better from the mixer's point of view. So we would like to take another trick to Eric's to have another listen and see if we have improved, and if Geoffrey is around, which would be nice, he can mark us off. He can say pass, or how about try this.
Yeah, definitely pass one.
So we want to wish, so we're going to continue checking out more stuff and chat a little bit. So at this point, I want to say again, thanks Eric and Geoffrey, and we hope you have lots of interesting Atmos projects to play with, and we'll see you in the near future. It would be nice if I see you before I leave. I'm leaving in 3 weeks. And so everybody, please subscribe to Music and Chat if you haven't already, so you get alerts to when I visit Eric next, or when I have a deep, meaningful conversation with Geoffrey next about Atmos. And stay safe and stay well, and I'll see you soon. Everyone wave bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.